Hello and welcome to Rogue Reviews number 4, Five Tribes. This is one of those games that's going to change the way that you play. If you've not bought this game already, if you've not seen this game already, this is one you are going to want to buy. Trust me, it is a fantastic game. We have played this game so many times, both the base game itself and the expansions. It's a game we keep coming back to again and again and again because there is so much game in there. There's so many different ways to play. There's multiple victory conditions. These are things that we as a family love. So let's find a bit about more, shall we? In Five Tribes, you are basically playing the jinns of Nakala. So think 1001 Tales, think Arabian Nights, think Aladdin. This kind of sort of Middle Eastern empire of sand, dunes, genies, palaces, sultans, that kind of thing. You are setting out people, collecting people, trading resources, claiming areas. This is kind of like an area control game a little bit. It was definitely a resource management game, but there's so much more to it besides. There's auctioning in here, there's bidding, there's sort of multiple victory conditions. As I said, this is a great, great game. In terms of the board, this is one of those games where basically you can lay out the boards different every single time, which again has appeal. You can do a little bit of changing here and there if you find things that don't work too well, but overall it's a new board every single time, which means loads of replayability. As you can see on the board, there is a lot going on. These are one of those board games that is very, very table hungry. We've barely fit it on our playing space here. So let's go through some of the components, shall we? The tiles. These are the different areas which you are basically seeking to control. This is basically one place you move on. For example, if you claim this place, it is worth 5 points. If you finish it in the place, you can put a palace on. What do those do? We'll find out a little bit more later. Okay. As well as that, you could have markets where you can basically claim goods and buy goods. You have palaces where you can summon genies. You have sort of miniature oases where you can basically grow trees. And for the base game, that is pretty much it. There are small markets, there are large markets, there are things different with different values, but we'll get into it more. So as you can see, there's a lot of colours going on here. Well, these are the actual 5 tribes. For example, we have the blue, which are the builders, the green, which are the merchants. We have the yellows, which are the viziers. We have the whites, which are the elders. And finally, we have the reds, which of course are the assassins. So on your turn, what you do is you choose a space on the board and you basically take all the people off there, take the meeples off there, beautiful meeples, and then you basically trace a route kind of around the desert, placing out your meeples as you go. The rule is that the last meeple you place has got to match somebody on the space you're on. So say, for example, I took them off here, I could then go, let's have a look. So I could put out 1, 2, 3, 4, finishing on this tile, and the yellow person is with another yellow person, and then I then take the matching colour meeples. So, depending on which resource you have, depending on which tribe you have, you follow different instructions. With the viziers, you basically claim them. It's kind of a system of one-upmanship. At the end of the game, they're worth points each, and if you have more points than the people, you get more points. Okay? Next one. If, for example, you were scoring the merchants. Now, the merchants are really, really interesting because they are all about the resources. So if you land on a particular space like a market here, not only does basically you get to claim some of your the resources available for a small amount of gold, or if you land on a larger market, you claim a few more for more gold. Now, when you start the market line here, there are 9 resources that are available. So let's say, for example, I landed here. I can choose to buy the first resource, or sort of one of the first 3 resources for 3 gold. Now, there are 9 individual different types of resources, and this is all about set collection. So you're trying to get as many different amounts of resources as you can, and the more different ones you get, the more points you have. For example, if you have 5 different resources, let's say, for example, you've got gold, pottery, spice, wheat, and silk, it's worth 21 points. But if you get 7 different resources, it's worth 40 points. If you manage to get all 9 different resources, it's worth 60 points, which is huge at the end of the game. So, as well as that, there are these fakir spaces. Now, fakir cards, these kind of affect other things. So they basically can affect how the different meeples work. So they kind of act as bonuses or little secondary effects. In terms of the line here, they're more of an annoyance than a boon, really, but they can actually be very, very powerful elsewhere in the game. So if you take resources, you can buy more, and then the market moves down. It's not refilled straight away, it's refilled at the end of the round, so you can't instantly get more of a choice there. So that's a different way of collecting things. If you choose to score some of the builders, as you can see, the spaces around the board are basically marked up into red tiles and blue tiles. The builders basically score the number of builders times the number of blue spaces in your 9 square. So basically your 3x3 square surrounding your space here. Now in this case, there's only 2 meeples scoring at only 2 points. That'll be a pitiful 4 points. Not very, very much. It's a good point talking about the money here. The money here is basically your victory points at the end of the game, but it's also the amount that you spend to buy things. So it's very, very careful to be a balancing mechanism. If you basically spend away all your profits, you're going to lose the game trying to get more profits. So it's kind of a bit of a balancing system there. So if you're scoring blue, you'd want to have a better place to score blue. For example, there's not very many here. If I scored, for example, 3 blue people on this space, it will be 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, which would be 12 points. It's better. The keys here count as extra blue people, so they can increase the multiple of your scores. Right, so we've done blue, we've done green. What about white? White are interesting because elders let you summon genies. Genies are really, really interesting, extra powerful bonus artifacts that kind of create either one-off effects or basic effects that you can pay for, either by more elders or more fakirs, or a combination of the two. So, for example, if you basically get Huggies, this particular genie, not only are they worth 10 points by themselves at the end of the game, which is rather good, but also they allow you to place out palaces in special particular ways. More points. At the end of the game, these wreaths were 3 points, these wreaths were 5 points. So if you land on a space which has one of these symbols on, you basically keep adding more and more and more and more of these tokens to them, which gain you more points into the game if you can claim that space. So genies are fantastic. They're really, really good. Speaking of these, if you manage on your turn to completely clear the spaces, for example, let's imagine I was putting, let's imagine I had, where are we? Take these 2 off, put the yellow there, put the blue there. I've completely cleared all the meeples off this space. What happens then is I can basically claim it for myself. Let's imagine I was the black player. I would basically put my camel down here, and at the end of the game, I've got some valuable real estate. Also, since I finished my turn there, I can put a palace on there, which is worth bonus points. Pause to breathe. As you can see, there is a lot going on in this game. This is really kind of a landmark game for me. It's one of the first games that basically I sat down and I listened for like 25 minutes, someone explain me how to play. After 25 minutes, they were still explaining. And it was a big deal for me to kind of learn all those rules. But once I'd listened that one time, I then knew how to play the game forever afterwards. So it's kind of like an initial big investment, but after that, it really just pays off. And then you play the game again and again and again and again and again. And after a few times, you can just do it without thinking. But it's really, really interesting because, as I said, there is so much game here. Whether it's basically scoring builders or scoring merchants. Assassins are really good fun because they basically let you kill off other people. For example, if I scored the assassins on this base, for example, I scored 3 assassins here, this would let me kill off one little random person by themselves up to 3 spaces away. So let's say, for example, this person here is 2 spaces away. So basically my assassins can travel over and reach them, bump them off. Oh, look, I've cleared another space, which means I get to claim another space for me. Okay, you see how it works. So what you have is the kind of system where, because you are going one after each other, and because the board is constantly changing, you run the slight risk of somebody else stealing the move that you were going to do. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no getting around that. You've just got to be flexible. It's worth having a couple of different possible moves going on at different points in the game, different points in the board before someone else takes their turn. Because if someone spoils your move, you need a backup plan. Because in this game, you don't want to be in sort of the analysis paralysis situation because it'll frustrate the other players. So it's worth having multiple different options. In terms of who goes first, we have another rule. We have basically the auction. Every single turn, you basically bid in terms of your gold, your precious victory points, in terms of who'd like to go first. Now, their options are basically bidding 0, 1, 3, 5, 8, 12, or 18. In our game, we've never ever bid 18. We've rarely ever bid 12. But you do occasionally have people building 5 or 8 if they can see an amazing move. Because what's really fantastic is when you can get multiple different things happening at the same time. For example, claiming a space to use an assassin to claim another space to put a thing on, etc, 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 etc. The points can stack up marvellously. So if you see a move that's basically going to net you, for example, 30 or more points, then it's worth paying 5, maybe even 8 to get that amazing move. partly for yourself and also partly to stop somebody else getting it. Because of course, every move you can see, maybe somebody else can as well. And it's kind of a free-for-all in terms of who can basically claim which spaces before it's all too late. Speaking of which, the game goes on until there are no more physically possible moves left, where most of the pieces have been cleared off the board. And at that point, the game finishes and you score up all your points. Now, one of the fantastic things about Five Tribes, as I said, is it is multiple routes to victory. So, for example, you score points for real estate, you score points for palaces, you score points for trees, you score points for, where are we? We score points for resources, we score points for genies. There's so many different ways. So the very first time I played this game, I was a bit sort of confused and bedazzled by it. So I just played blue. I played blue, 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 and I won, which is fantastic. The next time I try to be a bit more variety. And when you're playing with more experienced players, you do want to kind of have a little bit of everything going on. Like, for example, Seven Wonders, another amazing game, multiple routes to victory. So after a while, you'll kind of get used to doing a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this and a bit of that. But be very, very flexible in your strategy, because it's such a rewarding game to play, and you will come back to it again and again and again. So in terms of where to go from here, you could just play Five Tribes. That would be absolutely amazing. But wait, there's more. So as I said, Five Tribes is a heck of a game, but there's more. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And there we go. Welcome to the new expansion. Welcome to the Artisans of Nakala. This was the first expansion pack made for the game, and it is the best, absolutely hands down. We basically play with this game as a standard all the time now. It's always part of our game. So, what does the new expansion pack give you? Well, it gives you lots, as it turns out. Not only does it introduce a new type of meeple, a 6th tribe, which are these guys called the Artisans, purple people, lovely purple. What they basically do is they help you craft wondrous artifacts. So, as you can see, there are new spaces available. There is, of course, the Chasm, an incrossable barrier. You cannot get across this. It creates a block in the game for your paths. Also, you have the Specialist Markets, guarded by mountains of all things. So, if you land on a Specialist Market and happen to trade in either an Artisan or 2 fakirs, you can then collect one of these wondrous artifacts. For example, you might have a magic artifact, just lots of points, various different things. So for these kind of things, like this flaming sword, this is the burning scimitar, and these have special effects. Some of them are just literally points value. They're fantastic, they're nice, but the special effects basically let you either move people, get rid of people, put extra people on, replace things, reuse things again. They are very, very good. Even if they're only worth scoring the points value at the end of the game, it's always a bonus to go here. Of course, you do need purple people for that. What else? Well, the markets over here are fantastic, because what they basically allow you to do is to choose one of any of the row of resource tokens, which is great if you're basically trying to find out that one missing one that you're missing to try and get the full set. Very, very useful, very, very powerful. Plus they're worth 10 points if you claim them. Nice. What else? So we also have tents. Do you remember your camel spaces? Well, now each player also has a tent space. These act exactly the same as camels do, and you basically put them down when you claim a space. The difference is at the end of the game, they give you a bonus point for every red territory that is in their 9 squares. So for example, in this case, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bonus, 5 points. Nice. But there's more. There's also 4 new genies. Well, one's kind of an upgrade really, but these are to do with basically scoring extra points, scoring extra treasure, getting rid of people, and protecting people. So even more options. You've also got an even more complicated scoreboard to represent this. So now when you're counting up your scores, all kinds of stuff is going on. Now, the whole point of the game, as we said, is to try and maximize your scores. So this gives you loads more options. It's really, really interesting because it gives you more options to play in the game, more different ways of playing, gives you different styles of play, and it adds a lot to the game. As I said, we put this in our game as standard now. We play with this every single time. But there's more! Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes, they had to do it. They made another expansion. So, the Whims of the Sultan. expansion pack number 2. Now, what does this give? This gives a few more things, and it does give you a few more options, which is great. I have to say, this is probably not something that we would play with every single time. But one of the main advantages is it finally gives the 5th player. 5 Tribes is a 4-player game, and it's absolutely amazing. Oh, 2, 3, 4. But one thing that we thought it was missing was going to be a 5th player. So at last you can be the brown player. Complete with brown camels and a brown tent. Nice. So what does it add? It adds even more spaces. For example, you have the Great Oasis. This basically means that all trees and all palaces next to it are basically double the value. That can be very, very powerful. You can't control it yourself. However, it kind of gives extra buffing bonuses for things around it. There are also 5 special cities now. We have the Fabulous Cities. Now, these are crazy powerful because basically every single one of them is worth 5 points times the number of cities that you have. So say, for example, if you have 1, it's worth 5 points. If you have 3, each of them are worth 5 times 3, which is 15, so that's 45 points. If you get all 5 of them, it's 125 points, which is crazy. So, the Great Lake, lovely, lovely, nice. The Fabulous Cities, high risk, high reward. It very much becomes a game of like, right, stop everyone else getting the other ones. Plus you get more genies, for example, which control the treasures and also control the turn order, because now we have 5 players, the turn order gets even more complicated, if you wish to go that way. So, what else does it give? These special whims of the Sultan are basically kind of like set collection things. So if you land on the space, not only can you claim it, but basically you can also claim one of these sort of almost like mini quests. So for example, if you get, for example, certain people, certain camels in certain places, you get certain bonuses. Now, there are lots of these you can collect, and every single time you land on a space, you can basically take one and replace it. So there's always more to get. Some of them are easier than others. For example, you must kill off a merchant. On a building turn, you must score at least 15 points. You must kill off a vizier. You get the idea. So some of them are much more harder than others to organise in terms of spaces to go or things to collect. They're okay. They're okay. They add a little bit to the game. It's extra points for scoring. And obviously when you've got more players, you need more chances to amass different points. They're all right. We're not mad crazy about them, but it's a useful addition to the game. So after that, 5 Tribes rested on its laurels and didn't make any more. Of course it did, because there's more. What do you do when you have a loyal fan base? You make specialist cards. They released some bonus cards, some bonus genies, just for fun. So, for example, we have the genie called Denim. You heard that right. He's called Denim. He obviously loves his genes. He helps basically make your people even more powerful. Next, of course, we have Jin Gulbels. Yes, the Christmas genie. He's lovely. He basically lets you take more resources. He's worth 0 points by himself because his effect is so powerful. You can have a balancing mechanism. The weaker genies are worth more points by themselves. The stronger genies are worth fewer points but have a better effect. And finally, Mr. Willwheat. I'm sure you can guess who this is. He's amazing. So, not only does it worth 5 points in itself, but every single other genie you have is also worth a bonus 5 points. Fantastic. So as you can see, if you're in the genie business, the points can really stack up. But there's more! Okay, this is it, I promise. The last expansion pack that we basically bought was called The Thieves of Nakala. This introduces a little bit more player versus player options. For the sake of completionists, I bought it, but it doesn't see much play on our table because we generally don't like that kind of play. But just for pure curiosity's sake, this basically creates several thieves in the game, whose job it is to mess with the other players. So what they basically do is they go around and steal stuff off the other players. For example, you steal one resource from everybody, and then you get to choose which resource you keep. For example, you steal some genies of everybody, and you get to choose which resource you keep. They're okay. They're okay if you like that kind of sort of play. Personally, we don't tend to go for player versus player, so it doesn't see much table play in our game. However, as I say, if you're a completionist, you might want to add it to your arsenal. And of course, there's another genie as well. So, that all in told is 5 Tribes. The base game is amazing. You will be certainly happy with the base game. You will not go wanting in the base game at all. However, if you choose to get more, if you choose to add a little bit more to your game, this is the one that you want. because it changes the game in enough ways that actually add real value to the game. If you can pick off the other genies, that's lovely. I wouldn't be desperate about buying the Thieves. I wouldn't be desperate buying the Sultans, but you need this in your life as well. Right. Let's look at final thoughts, shall we? So, Five Tribes, is it a game for you? Well, I would say absolutely yes. Even if you don't go the super complicated route and try and get the expansion packs, even if you just pick up the base game, yes, you will really, really have a lot of good fun with this game. There's a lot of stuff to learn. The first time you read it, the first time you look at the rules, it'll take you a little bit to pick up, but after that, you've got it. And once you actually know the game, there's so much more you can explore in terms of strategy, in terms of style of playing. But this game sees so much play at our table. I would really, really, really recommend it. It's definitely in terms of that medium weight, because obviously there are more rules to listen to, but ultimately there is so much game to it and it's actually a fantastic experience. Please do check it out. Please do try and play it or pick it up if you can do. Thank you for coming to see us again. If you want to contact us, as ever, you can find us at rogueartistcreations.com. Please join our mailing list. On Facebook, we are at Rogue Artist Creations. On Twitter, we are at Rogue A Creations. If you want to contact me, I am GMFirst at rogueartistcreations.com. Thank you very much for joining in, and next time, I wonder what we'll explore. Bye.